Back at WN often enough that I get together with some old friends. This guy was a visitor to my program many, many times. Always a friendly face in the locker room, even though he had a scowl on game days and ran the football angry, as they said. We welcome back onto the program Ravens one-time Nice Guy Award winner, as well as running back, and now here to talk about mental health and men's health and his own health. We welcome Jamal Lewis back here. And the good news, Jamal, is I don't have to tackle you today. I only have to talk to you, man. How you been, my friend?
Hey, that's what's up, man. Man, glad to be on the show, and all is well with me. Just hanging in down here in rainy Atlanta, man. That's about it. Just life as usual as a former NFL player.
Well, you're different than a former NFL player because you handed out a lot of punishment. You took a lot of punishment. Earl Campbell was one of my childhood heroes. I was a Houston Oiler fan. I think you probably knew that from the time you wore purple, and that was my first love. And you sort of were the modern-day version of the way you ran the football, the way offenses were designed around you. Obviously, moving on to Cleveland and what your career became. But I read this story back on Bleacher Report back in May. You're one of several Raven players that I know who have admitted to having some post-football issues, and watching movies like Concussion and seeing the real effects of this, and even seeing Orlando Brown's little boy now play right tackle for the team, and Orlando no longer with us. I do worry for all of you because I know all of you so well. Anytime, I was out to dinner with Stoney Case last week when he came back to town. Mike Flynn and I go get crabs a couple times a year when he's in town. So I feel like I stay close with most of you, and you visit here, and it's a different platform 15 years later when you're navigating the rest of your life than bringing you out to the barn for crab cakes back in the day when you ran for 200 yards.
Oh, yeah, definitely, man. It's a big conversation now, especially since the whole concussion issues, came up. And, there's a lot of guys out there that's older than I am that's played the game for a long time that's suffering, from concussion symptoms, and depression is one of them. And that's one of the reasons why, we're coming to Baltimore, to the University of Maryland Medical Center to talk about, these issues with men and depression and dealing with depression. And, it's a major issue, now, especially with athletes, that was born as macho men and was always taught to be physical and be, I guess, what they've been told that, a man supposed to be masculine and everything else. And, depression is the leading cause of disability worldwide, and, men suffer from it. And that's the biggest case of suicides and things that happen. And we've had some guys in the NFL that's had, that basically are suffering from suicidal thoughts and that have also committed suicide. So what is the reason behind it? And I think a lot of it is, depression and not being able to talk to people and, come out with their issues and how they're feeling and actually, converse with somebody, about it or have a sounding board that they can let it out and talk to. And that's one of the things that, I think that article actually done in the Bleacher Report was it kind of got guys on the same page to say, what, I'm not the only one suffering from these types of issues. And, how do you deal with it? And it was just more of an awareness thing. And I think it's happening more and more as guys get, comfortable with talking about this issue.
Jamal, what changed for you? Give me a little bit of your pathway after football, when your career was over and you couldn't do this anymore. You made a lot of money, and I know you were involved in a business, and the word was your business didn't do well, and money, but a lot of players make a lot of money. Some of them have the money, and their bodies fail them afterward, their mind fails them afterward. But you play the game for the reasons you play the game when you're 15, 16, 17. You go off to Tennessee. You had some famous problems as well in off seasons here that I think changed you as a person as well. After the jurisprudence system got a hold of you, but you found yourself out of football. Where were you from then until the Bleacher Report story? Because I ran into you a few Super Bowls here and again. I know you come back to Baltimore here and again, and but somewhere in between, you had some problems that has put you on this life path to tell your story and not go and hide, and also not commit suicide, right?
Yeah, so, after I got done playing, and concussions was the leading issue for me, actually, stopping my playing days, and, it was cut short. But at the same time, being that I played football since I was 8 years old, coming up as a kid, it was kind of one of those things where it was a way to let off, steam and let off anger. When you're growing up in a community that's drug infested and prostitute infested, and the odds of you actually getting out are not great. Being able to go out and experience that, at a young age and go on to the pros at 20 years old and get handed millions of dollars. One of your biggest things is trying to not be a statistic for the things that you've heard about. And that's why, my biggest thing was business. And I got myself in business early, starting out when I was first playing. So therefore, a lot of speculation or things that were said about me as far as financially, it wasn't frivolous spending. I was caught up in the crisis that happened in 2007, 2008, because I was heavily involved in real estate and heavily involved in transportation and logistics, which is a big credit-ran industry. And a lot of that dried up. So therefore, luckily, I had, finances from football and things of that nature and was able to survive through that. But at the same time, I had a business that was struggling, just like, probably 60 to 70% of America. And I went through that. And I think that what it did for me was made me tougher. It made me take some of those football speeches that Billett gave and Cornell and a lot of the coaches that I've been under. It kind of made me stronger. But after that and being done, you have to find structure. You have to find what are you going to do now? What are you going to do day to day? And this, that, and the other. And that's when, the depression, it sinks in and the thoughts start thinking in of what am I here for? I'm not playing football anymore. I don't have 75,000 people, cheering me on every day to go out there and make a sale or do good business. So, you kind of get caught up in that, in those thoughts, and it can kind of take you into a dark spot. But at the same time, with myself and being the player that I was, the leader that I was, and the hard worker I was, it's kind of like, just talking to yourself in the mirror and catching a grip, and saying, look, this is what I got to do. It's like being down 21 points in a football game, and you got to keep on pushing, so you either catch up, or you lose fighting. And I would rather lose fighting rather than winning sometimes, because it makes you stronger. And I think that's where I am in my life right now is, hey, I'm fighting. I'm doing good. My kids are healthy. My family is supportive. And what else can you ask for?
Jamal Lewis, Ravens legend, joining us here. He will be in Baltimore coming up next week. I want to give everybody all the information on this. It's the community conversation is called Let's Talk About Depression and Anxiety. It's University of Maryland Medical System. The event is on the 28th of November. This is the week after Thanksgiving, so you can get your pumpkin pie and your turkey and your eggnog, cranberry, and all that stuff, sweet potato pie. Get on downtown. It's the 28th from 9 until 3. It's umms.org. You can learn more about this. I'm going to share the link as well. Jamal will be speaking at around 1:15 that day, but it's an all-day event that starts at 8:15 in the morning with doctors and panel discussions and successfully managing depression while growing older and suicide prevention and resilience and recovery as well. Jamal Lewis is our guest discussing all this. Jamal, something stood out here that you said in talking about your struggles and about how you ever got successful to begin with, and that would be hard worker. You said I was always a hard worker, and I think that that's something that maybe the fans don't understand, when they see combines and they see the underwear Olympics and they see the college game and they see the hard knocks and they see the practices and all of that stuff, is everybody in the NFL has to work so hard, so focused, an obsession really on getting to the NFL and playing even one game, let alone having the kind of career, making the kind of money that you made. There's hard workers, and then there's the part where a lot of guys have had a hard time being as passionate and working as hard at something else as they did at football, because football is so singular to so many, right? So many of the kids only play football, only focus on football. It's a year-long obsession from the time, to your point, you were a kid. You dreamed of playing in the NFL. And then there's the thing that comes after that so many players are not prepared for. But, Jamal, I would say this. I mean, you came out 20 years ago. Whatever the program was back then for you coming into the NFL, 20 years later, the league has tried to surround itself, not just with the agent side of this and player health and on the field mental health and nutrition and every sleep, everything, all the science that would go into this. They really are trying to have less tragedies in the sport, because it does not reflect well upon the league when bad things happen when kids come into the league that aren't ready to play football, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. The league has changed. They're doing a good job. They're doing a real good job in keeping up with time. I think, we was living in the past, probably 10 years ago. But now, it's driving down to the youth, because that's where the growth of the NFL comes from, the youth. And I coach, third grade football, and I see, the heads up tackling and, the things that you try to teach the kids, fundamentally, versus just having them just go out and just be physical and just play ball. And that's it. But now it's changed. And the NFL is doing a good job of, raising these kids to be professionals. Even with the younger guys coming out of college, putting them through certain skills tests and giving them the opportunity to go out and see what type of businesses they want to get involved in, beforehand through these different, classes or things that you can register for after the season, so that these kids can go to, or these young men can go to and experience different businesses other than when I was coming out. Hey, you had to wing it. I was in the restaurant business. I was in the logistics business. But if I had, these case studies and these classes that you can go to and experience and talk through and understand, is this what I want to do? It helps you to make a better decision. And I think that's what they're doing for these guys nowadays, is helping them make, logical decisions versus just going and making emotional decisions, and helping them, and providing them with the resources in order to make those logical decisions. So, that's a hats off to the NFL and what they're doing. But it's just, I think that's for the current players, but mainly for the former players with the NFL, the players' trust and things they're doing there. It's more of how do you get information out to these guys, versus just email and other things. It's getting information out to these guys that are struggling and that have a hard time reading a full email or going to the mailbox or even walking to the mailbox to get that letter that they're sending about information. It's how do you get information to these former guys that are out here struggling and dealing with depression and dealing with certain issues that they don't want to talk about because they're macho men. That's where we have a long ways to go.
What turned this around for you? I mean, what was, I don't want to say rock bottom, but what was the point where you said, I'm going to start going on Nestor's radio program. I'm going to start getting involved with hospitals. I'm going to fly. I'm going to be out in front of this for other people. And I'm sure it has touched you. I am sure players that you know and players you don't know have reached to you since last May looking for whatever help that you have found that has kept your head on about all this.
Well, I think that the main thing that helped me to jump out there and express my feeling is more of the therapy that was brought along by just talking to individuals that are close to you, telling them, what's going on with you or how you're feeling or whatever, and letting that out. It's very therapeutic. Do you have to go to a counselor or a therapist for that? No. You can talk to your closest friend or your significant other or your wife or your girlfriend or whatever about your issues, and it makes it better. So by realizing that, you want to share that, because a lot of people don't know, what guys go through. They feel like, oh, you're an athlete. You can't do anything else. You can't do business. You can't talk. You can't do anything but play the sport, but the sport is gone. The cleats are hung up. So now what? And I've seen a lot of guys. I live in Atlanta with probably over 800, former and current football players, that live here in Atlanta. So you see a lot of guys,
wow,
and a lot of guys, hide behind certain issues or whatever, and you notice it, because I was one of those guys, that was suffering, financially, and that was suffering from depression, but walked around with a smile on my face like everything was all right when it really wasn't. So therefore, you recognize that because you've been that person. So I feel like what I can do, while I'm here on earth, because who knows how long you got here. It's like carrying the ball. You're one carry away, from being out of the NFL or not playing the game again. So therefore, I feel like my thing is, if I can give back by letting people know how I feel and talking about it, it opens up, the rest of my colleagues and guys that I've played with or been in the league with or just part of the NFL family, it helps them to do better for themselves, and they actually can talk about it and get out there and mentor and kind of, express their feelings to guys that are dealing with the same thing, not just athletes, but just regular people that suffer from depression or anxiety as well.
How much of this did you put on football versus not on football, Jamal? And you talk about Jazz and your kids and playing football and coaching football. You still love football, and you still have no problem with 10-year-old kids playing football.
Oh, yeah, I love football. I think football gave me a great platform to do something special. It also gave me an outlet. Like I said earlier, it gave me an outlet to go out there and let off some steam or whatever. But at the same time, like I said, football is safer than I think it's ever been. That's why I don't mind my son playing or playing the game at all. So, I don't put everything on football as far as what I deal with, but, a lot of things from upbringing to, things I had to deal with in my own household, and that living in a low-income African-American, community, and the things that you go through and deal with and see or whatever on a daily basis is something that a kid on the north side couldn't even fathom or even imagine. If I just, was able to write a book about, from me being 8, 9 years old to being 17, I would have a series, so and it would be a good one, because it's stuff that you wouldn't even expect for somebody that's overcome and came to play in the NFL, be the 5th pick in the draft, go play for the Baltimore Ravens, rush for 2,000 yards. Everybody sees the glitz and the glamour of that, but they don't know where all of that came from, where that fire came from, or whatever. So, that's kind of, the thing where football is football, and I played the game the way I played it, but, my life extends further, before 2000 and going to a Super Bowl, or 98 going to a national championship, to 2009, 10, retiring. And now I'm 39 years old. So, there's a lot more of life that I've lived outside of, being between the sidelines.
It's incredible, right? You win a Super Bowl right away, and you seek that the rest of the time, and then all these years later. And I asked Billick this, and I asked Mike Flynn, all your teammates this, what does it mean to you all these years later that you won a Super Bowl, right? I mean, that day doesn't come back. The video comes back every year, right? It's always on NFL Network, and I talk to Stokely once a month. He comes on the show as well. It's quite a fraternity of human beings. I mean, I saw Rod Woodson last week. Right, and Ray Lewis out in Canton this summer. It's quite a unique group of people that have been involved all these years later.
Oh yeah, it's a great group. It's almost like a Super Bowl fraternity. When you won. When I go around Atlanta, whatever people they call me champ. And I feel like a boxer. I feel like Evander Holyfield. But it makes you feel good. But it goes. It doesn't go unrecognized that you're a champion and that you was part of something like, a Super Bowl, which involves a team. And it involves a team that works together and that works in unison. And everybody's doing their job. And it's being done every single week and getting over adversity. That's what Super Bowls are about. And it's going all the way to the end. And when you're a part of something like that, that's why everybody don't have a Super Bowl, right? So it's one of those things where it's something so special to you because you remember the adversity that went on before the season. You remember the adversity going on through the first 5 games of the season. You remember the coaching not the coaching changes, but the quarterback changes, during that season. Not scoring a touchdown, earlier on that season. But being able to get through that and make changes and make adjustments and go through and take it all the way to the end game, which is the championship, that's something special, and that's something that team remembers. It's something that locker room remembers, and that administration and organization remembers. And that's what makes that bond so tight with any team that goes to a Super Bowl.
Jamal Lewis is our guest. The event is the 28th at University of Maryland. Not all wounds are visible. A community conversation. Let's talk about depression and anxiety, part 2. Men, seniors, chronic disease, and suicide prevention. Jamal will be taking part in that on the 28th. The event is from 9 until 3. I'm going to be sending out a link as well. You can learn more at umms.org as well on their event schedule. Jamal will be speaking around 1:15 after lunch on the 28th as part of this full day of anti-suicide and managing depression and anxiety while growing older with the University of Maryland. Bunch of doctors and a football player. Jamal, always a pleasure to have you on. I am glad you're doing well. I am going to be an honorary Atlantan. We play down there in 3 weeks, and then I'll be down there for 10 days for the Super Bowl. I really hope you stop by and just hang out with us for a little while. Will you promise to do that Super Bowl week? Come on down and just hang, man.
Hey, definitely, man. Definitely. I'm here. So we'll make it happen. I appreciate you and all the years of knowing you, and you've always been a great person. And, hey, I value your friendship, and I look forward to it.
You're a special guy, Jamal. Take care of yourself. We'll see you in a couple weeks down in Atlanta, okay?
You too, buddy.
Number 31 in your program, number 1 in your heart. He ran the football with a lot of heart and is now giving back. He'll be back up here in Baltimore. And if you just heard that piece or you came in on that piece and you want to hear all of that, go to the buyatoyota.com audio vault. You can find out more information about this big University of Maryland event coming up on the 28th at umms.org. Football players doing good stuff and amidst a lot of adversity. And if you haven't read Jamal Lewis's piece out on Bleacher Report from back in May, you may want to Google that and take a look at that. I'm going to get Tyler Dunn on the program too. I think I had Tyler on back in June and talked to him briefly about it. I'm going to bring him back on as we get down to Atlanta as well. The headline is Jamal Lewis making the most of post-NFL life but preparing for darker days to come. And Jamal speaking out about depression and about keeping his head clear and doing the right thing down there in Atlanta. So great to visit with Jamal Lewis. You can find me out on the buyatoyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear from anywhere in the world, including the state of Georgia. Also, our friends at Royal Farms, real fresh, real fast, and the tasty Kona blend, as well as the ROFO rewards card you can put in your wallet as well as on your app. They got eggnog there this month, so it's great. I got some Cloverland eggnog. You got to get out to Royal Farms to do that. But if you're using the ROFO rewards card or the app, you'll get some points. You maybe get your coffee for free, your Western fries for free, your fried chicken for free. In a couple weeks since I've had some ROFO fried chicken. But I'm all over the eggnog, man. It's a November-December thing. They take it away. I think it's a government conspiracy. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. I am on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook, as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.